Hello. It's great to be here at Build. My name is Asha. I'm the head of product for Azure AI, and today we're going to talk about building and scaling your own custom copilots. But first, I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the world of AI. AI is transforming the world, and developers are at the center of what's to come. Even as I stand here today, every single application is being rewritten and reinvented in the age of AI. And as AI gets interwoven throughout society, our hypothesis is that the economic impact is going to be significant. And we're starting to see that with organizations today. 87% of them think that AI is going to contribute to their competitive advantage. And so companies aren't looking for AI's sake. We really need to think about how we can use AI to improve the way people live and improve the way people work. We recently ran a study, and we saw that skilled workers that are using Gen AI are seeing a 40% improvement in the quality of their work. But unlike other transformations of the past and paradigm shifts of the past, these changes aren't happening over 5 years or even 3 years. We're starting to see the impact of AI over 14 months. And for every single dollar that's invested in AI, we're seeing a $3.50 return. Now, you saw this morning that the Copilot stack was a big part of the discussions. Azure AI is a visible and invisible ingredient across every single layer of the stack. And the momentum has been pretty amazing. Today, more than 53,000 organizations run on Azure AI. More than 60% of Fortune 500s are using Azure OpenAI. And 20,000 customers are using Azure Search, half whom are using Vector, which was launched less than a year ago. And one of the reasons we're able to run really quickly is because Microsoft runs on Azure AI. So all of the copilots, the millions of users, they're actually using our technology and our platform, which is hardening it, and what we're using to extend to all of you. Now, we've been working hard over the last couple of years to assemble a portfolio, and Azure AI Studio is at the center of that. It has all of our pre-trained turnkey solutions for intelligent applications. We also have Azure ML, which is designed to help you customize, build, and train your own models. And of course, we have Responsible AI, which has been around for the last 8 years, where we have over 90 different tools to help you build end-to-end systems to help you keep your applications safe and secure. This morning, Satya announced that the AI Studio is now generally available worldwide. So thank you to everybody in this room for all of the help. Getting to this point, we have over 20,000 customers using AI Studio every single month. And so it's been really exciting to have all of your feedback, and we're excited to show you more today. But what's at the heart of a lot of these tools is actually how our customers are using them. And Sweco is one of our customers in Europe. It's an architect and design firm, and they invented Sweco GPT. So let's take a look at what they did.
Sweco is Europe's leading architecture and engineering company.
We're trying in a sustainable and innovative way to develop the cities of the future. The projects have a lot of requirements, a lot of citizens with their own opinion about the developments. We need to make an analysis, which takes a lot of time.
The challenge is making that information usable.
Our focus is on automating repetitive and mundane tasks. We use AI Studio because of one-click deployment of the models. It gives you a lot of ease to develop very fast. It took me 2 days to build the whole logic of Sweco GPT in Promptflow. In 2 weeks, we built the whole Sweco GPT and we deployed it.
Sweco GPT can save me up to 2 hours a day, which allows me to be creative and innovative.
In less than 1 year, we've gone from an organisation that didn't use generative AI to an organisation that uses generative AI every day.
The potential of Azure AI Studio for us and what we can do with it for our customers is infinite.
So all of this is possible because of the hard work of our teams that have been building new features for Azure AI Studio. And instead of talking about all of them, I'd actually love to show you all of them. I have my colleague Nabila, Principal Product Manager of Azure AI Studio with me, and I would love for you to give us a tour of the new AI Studio.
Awesome, Asha. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for coming, folks. Azure AI Studio is the place to build, customize, and deploy your AI applications. What I'd love to do is, for folks that haven't been on this journey with us, I'd love to give you a quick tour of the product, and then we'll get into our use case. Asha, would you like to join me?
Yes, but let's switch over to the demo. So as you're doing that, I have a lot of resources, I have a lot of keys. Where can I get started? How can I use the AI Studio?
The place to get started with using the product is the Hub. The Hub is the central place for your organization where you can bring all of the assets that you need to build your applications with. These can be data assets, models, or indexes. Here you can see I'm in the current Hub that I created here, and the first thing that you see is a set of projects. These projects help me organize my work, but I need something to build with. The way you bring ingredients to build with in here are through connections. Here you can see that it's sort of like a shopping experience. I can add multiple connections here for me to consume models, data assets in a secure way, as well as indexes. And once I consume them, they're available for me to build with.
And so outside of this, I have a lot of services. I use search, language, text. Where can I get Azure AI services, and how can I use them for my application?
You can get those through connections, but before I show you that, I'd love to also show you how you can govern the Hub.
Okay.
Here, I can also add members that can control who has access to which services. I also have a single place where I can grab all of my API endpoints and keys here as well once they're provisioned. And if I need more control, I can always go to the Azure portal where I can manage network, security, encryption, as well as billing. So now let's go back to the connected resources. If I go to the AI services tab, here I can see our integration with AI services. And all of these capabilities are available through a connection that is one shared key. And what happens is once I create a Hub, they're all available for me. The endpoints are ready for me to use. And what this does is I have the capability to add speech. For example, you can add text-to-speech or speech analytics, language translation. You can add OCR, as well as content safety that filters out harmful content from your applications.
So where do we go if I want to get going to build an application starting with a model? Where can I discover them? Where can I choose them?
For that, you could go to the model catalog. Our model catalog has over 1,600 models from some of the top model providers in the world. These include models from Azure OpenAI, Meta, Mistral, and Microsoft Research. As you see at the top right here, you now have access to GPT-4o within here as well as Microsoft's Phi 3 small language model as well. And you may wonder, how do I consume these models? You can consume these two ways. First is through managed compute. Through managed compute, as a user, you're hosting the infrastructure that these models are running on, and you're paying for core hours. Or you can consume them as serverless APIs. Here, we're hosting these models for you. You're paying for tokens, and you're getting pretty much an endpoint and key, and you can integrate them into your application.
So we have over 1,600 models. How do I choose which one is right, whether it's accuracy, coherence, the things that I care about? How do I go about evaluating these models?
Great question. For that, you would go into the model benchmarking experience. What's great about this is I don't have to upload any sort of a data set. I pretty much can filter down the models that I'm interested in. Here, you can select a few models from the top providers that we have, and they're benchmarked against a standard data set for tasks across the metrics that Asha was sharing earlier, things like accuracy, coherence, and fluency. And the great thing is I pretty much can filter these, and I don't have to upload any data, and it'll give me a rough idea of the models I may want to consume in my applications.
So now that we have all the ingredients, how do I get into a project?
Okay, so we go back to the Hub, and I'm going to go ahead and share a project that we can use for building. Within the project, I now have access to the project playgrounds. And these not only help me understand or help me interact with different models, think of this as a dev light playground, where some of the tooling that we have is surfaced here as well. For example, in the chat playground, I can add my own data. What this does is it grounds the model on your own company data in a secure way. And then you can start chatting with it. Within the assistance playground that's new within AI Studio, I can also set up an initial assistant here as well with a deployment, a name, and instructions on how to behave. And then I can get the key and go to code. And the entire goal of AI Studio is to enable developers to get to code quickly. Within the tools, you have the ability to customize or improve your application. For example, with fine-tuning, you can select a set of models from the catalog and fine-tune them for your specific scenario. You can also improve your applications through tools for tracing, as well as evaluations that we'll see later. And again, the goal is to get to code. So within the code tab within AI Studio, we have integrations with VS Code, where you have a container that's pre-configured with the right environment to be able to quickly try out different AI app templates as well.
Amazing. So now that we've seen a tour of Azure AI Studio, I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the market. Right now, we're starting to see developers move from experimentation to scale. And as the market matures, we're starting to see the need to solve more complex problems with really simple tools. And so that can be function-based apps, that can be Azure OpenAI Assistant, that can be AutoGen. And so we're working on bringing more of these tools to you.
So you may wonder, why an agent? Why is this interesting to me? What problems is it solving? LLMs have amazing generative capabilities. They have the power to generate texts, images, and even understand videos. But have you ever tried asking it what time it is? Or have you tried asking it, give me the current weather in Redmond? Or pretty much anything that it's not pre-trained on. It's not going to work. To build a more realistic application, you need to be able to integrate capabilities like these into your application. And it's not just the capabilities, you have to be able to orchestrate and know when to call these as well. And this is where an agent-based workflow or framework is really useful. It's able to handle these. Azure OpenAI's Assistant API is one of the first and best agent-based frameworks that's available to us. And within AI Studio and within the playground, you have the ability to define initial assistant and get started there. And as you can see, I've done that here. And all you need are 3 things. The first thing that you need is a deployment. I'm using the GPT-3.5 Turbo deployment here. The second is you need to instruct the assistant how to behave. You can do that through a system message. And the last thing that's pretty interesting are all the different toolings that you can use. And you can toggle on and off the ones that you need. For example, functions enable you to call external APIs, or they enable you to query data. You can also enable code interpreter. What that does is it enables your application to take a user query, write code, execute it, and then give a response. And the last tool that you see here is adding files. What that does is it enables your application to have capabilities for retrieval and RAG patterns.
So maybe we should take a look at a specific scenario using the Assistance API.
Sure. So Asha, now that we understand agents and we understand how they're useful, I'd love to dive into a use case. I've already created this for you, and what we're going to do is imagine we are both PMs for Contoso, an outdoor equipment company. And what we're going to do is we're going to chat with a sales insight application that is able to retrieve data about our sales. And Asha is an executive that loves sales data. I've already gone ahead and run some of the queries for this application. So we're going to start with the first one. Asha, what would you like to know?
Let's start at the basics. Give me the sales by month for 2024.
Awesome. So as you can see within this app, I ran this a little earlier. As you can see, when we asked this, show me the revenue for month by month for 2024, it's able to retrieve the first 5 months, because we've only had 5 months so far within the year. And it's able to call a function called Sales Data Insights. And you're able to see all the revenue by month for 2024. Asha, what would you like to know next?
How about we compare this? What does 2023 look like?
Awesome. And what I loved about this was I'm asking questions naturally. I'm not writing a SQL query just the way I would ask this application a question, and it's able to write those queries for me. So now let's say if we want to know whether our sales for 2023, how they're compared to 2024, I've done 2 things here. I've asked this not just what is the revenue for 2023, but I want to also ask to generate a chart for me that makes it easier for me to visualize this. And here you can see that it's now able to visualize that for me. And here we now see a comparison of 2023 to 2024 data.
What if I want to see a line chart? This doesn't look too good to me.
Sure, we can do that as well. The way we built this application is it's using two of the tools that we saw configured in the playground. The first one is a function that queries data and retrieves it, and the second is code interpreter that's able to generate these charts. To be able to add a month-to-month comparison, again, I ask it, and you may notice that I'm not repeating anything in here. I'm building off of what I previously had asked. And once I do that, it's able to generate that for me as well. And the way it has these capabilities to be able to continue to build off of previous queries is through this thread ID that you see. And this thread ID is maintained with each chat interaction that you're seeing in here. And what's great about this is the Assistance API is enabling developers not just to have a Q&A chat type of an experience, it's an interactive data experience. And you can see this is very intuitive. A lot of times once I ask a question and I see data, I want to ask more questions. And this is feeding into that intuition.
Amazing. Now, executives like me often will have more data questions, as Nabila said, and so we're starting to think about tools to actually simplify this whole process. I'll let you talk about that, Nabila.
Awesome. So one of my favorite things about this demo is that it took something that was really complex and made it really simple. And I love when technology can do that. So in here, if you take a look, this is an example of just one chat interaction between my application and the user. And you can see the call flow here. The first thing that my application had to do was it had to figure out, do I even call a tool? And if so, which tool do I call? And what it did was it called the Sales Data Insights tool. That tool is writing queries for us based on a system message that we've predefined, and then it's querying our database for that data, retrieving it, and then it passes it on to number 2. Number 2 is Code Interpreter. It takes those insights, again, it generates code, and then it creates the visuals that we saw within my chat. The third thing that you see here is prompt flow. And this is what we're going to focus the rest of the session on. Prompt flow enables a user to have 3 really important capabilities and superpowers that we'll cover. And you can add this to your existing code or application. For us to see this, I'd love to invite Hanchi on stage. He is an amazing dev lead, and he's the one who actually does the real work around here. So he's going to show us how he uses prompt flow to enable the superpowers that we're going to cover. You can imagine executives like Asha aren't just going to stop at one question. They're going to ask several, and as they ask, the complexity of our applications is going to increase. My team has been thinking about how we simplify this for developers, and we're incredibly excited to announce the GA of AI Studio with 3 powerful capabilities, all powered by prompt flow. The first one is tracing. Tracing enables developers to have visibility into the execution of their code. The second is evaluation. Evaluations enable developers to improve the quality as well as safety of their applications. And the last is monitoring. Monitoring is critical when your application is in production and you want visibility into it.
Good morning, everyone. It is great to be here at Build. If we can stay on this slide for a little bit, let me remind everyone you can get the same code, what I'm about to show with this link on the slide, and try it out yourself. Tracing and instrumentation are top priorities to developers. Let's face it, the code we developers write doesn't always execute the way we expect. That's why it is critical for us to have the ability to look into our code and understand how it really runs. Let me show you the code of the chatbot app Nabila and Asha were using and explain how AI Studio and PromptFlow help developers to trace and instrument their code in AI applications. If we can recap real quick here, there are 3 key components to the chatbot app. The assistant flow, which is the outer container that calls the assistant API, the sales data insight tool, and the code interpreter. What we are seeing here, the chat completion function, is the entry point to the assistant flow. It takes question from a user and reply chat output. You can tell it's nothing but a typical Python function. The only thing special here is the trace decorator provided by PromptFlow. This decorator helps developers to emit traces to log inputs, outputs, and events of a given Python function. It also automatically captures any interactivity with LLMs like Azure OpenAI models. I can quickly show you the code of the sales data insight tool as well. As you can see here, it is nothing but a typical callable Python class with the trace decorator. And the third thing is the code interpreter tool, which is built in from the Assistant API, so I don't need to show you the code of it. Now with this overview of the chatbot app, you might be wondering what is the best way to test it and view the traces locally. PromptFlow provides an interactive chat UI just for that. This is how. To start the UI, you would run a command like this. You point the command at the chat completion function we were looking at earlier, and it can be any function of yours. I have already run the command earlier and have the UI up and running. So here is the UI. You can use this UI to chat with a Python function in an interactive way.
This is great, Hanchi. Now, with just that one command, pf-flow-test-ui, you have the ability to test your code as you're developing it. Let's take this for a spin. I'd love for you to see if you could break down the revenue of 2024 by month and create a line chart.
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, here's the question. And this being executed by the Assistant API. While it's running, I can click the view trace and see the incoming traces. It will take a little bit to finish, so I can click the refresh button here and look at all the active traces. Let's do it one more time here and see if it finishes. Okay, looks like it's taking its own time a little bit. Okay, now it's finished. Let me explain this trace view to you. At the topmost, we see a flow trace for the chat completion function. And this is the master span, the parent span for the whole assistant flow. We see the question from the user here and the final output. We can also drill down to the sales data insight tool. What we can see here is that the Assistant API rephrased the question a little bit. The tool was able to retrieve data based on that question. To understand how the tool really did that, we can drill down one more level. Here is the LLM trace. We can see the automatically generated SQL query and how the tool was able to run the SQL query and retrieve the data. The last interesting trace to see here is a trace for the code interpreter. We can see the Python code that it generated and how it used the Python code to generate the final line chart.
Awesome. So you annotated your key functions with the @trace decorator from the PromptFlow SDK. Then that made it show up in that beautiful UI that we saw. What we should point out here also is that the instrumentation that we're using is emitted by OpenTelemetry. Developers are already familiar with this. And also the benefit of this is that it scales. When the application is in production, you can use the same OpenTelemetry spans and events to be able to monitor it. And we'll cover that more in detail later.
Exactly. Let me remind everyone, OpenTelemetry is an industry standard. That means you can configure collectors to send traces to any of your preferred destination, like Azure Monitor. And that also means you can look at traces emitted by PromptFlow and emitted from other parts of our application together at a single place.
Awesome. Hanchi, I have a curveball for you now. This entire time, you've been on your laptop, you're debugging, you're looking at tracing, you're working on your own. Oftentimes, when I'm working and I run into issues, I want to work with a colleague. I want to share my trace with them. I want their help. How do I do that with the product?
That's a great point, and we thought about that too. I have pre-configured my local environment to send traces to AI Studio. That's how I got this link and URL. And on this page on AI Studio, as you can see here, I get the same trace view as we were looking at earlier on the local PromptFlow UI. And I can simply copy and paste this URL and share with a colleague so that we can look at and investigate the traces together.
Awesome. That is super useful. You're able to see traces both locally as you're iterating on them, as well as you're able to share them through AI Studio. That is a wrap for our first superpower, which was tracing and debugging. What we saw Hanchi doing was we saw him enabling tracing for an agent-based application. But it doesn't have to be agent-based. You can wrap this on any type of application. It can be simple LLM calls, RAG-based applications, any function, single or multi-agent applications. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is you're pretty much able to use the @trace annotation wherever you need visibility, and you're able to trace those functions. The other thing we also saw that was really useful was that local chat UI. The benefit of that is that I have the ability to start testing my code as a user before I've even built the front end of my application. And then to keep things around longer or to share them, Hanchi was using AI Studio to share his traces. Okay, so now that we understand tracing, I'd love to talk about our second superpower, which is evaluations. Evaluations focus on improving our application's quality as well as safety. LLM-based applications are unpredictable. It might fabricate data, make up numbers, it might provide long-winded answers. It might not give you the right responses. All of these are going to impact your application quality. Also, folks may want to try different models. They may want to optimize different models or their application for cost, performance, or accuracy. And if you recall earlier when Hanchi was sharing his code, we had one function called the Sales Data Insights tool. And that's where a lot of magic happens. That was the function that was writing the SQL queries, querying our SQL database and retrieving insights. Let's say we want to optimize this function, and let's say we want to see which model or set of models could help evaluate this function in a way where it improves, its quality. Hanchi, is that something that you can show us?
Of course. And first, let me show you guys how evaluations work in general with PromptFlow SDK. Due to the non-deterministic nature of language models, it is important to run evaluations regularly. What's equally important is to have high-quality test data set. If you don't, the good news is that PromptFlow SDK provides a set of tools for you to generate synthetic data sets. For our case here, we have already prepared a test data set. There are two columns in this test data set. The question is what a user would ask our chatbot app, and the ground truth is what the correct SQL query should be generated by the flow. Now let's switch to look at the evaluation code. I used the evaluate function provided by PromptFlow to run my evaluation. The evaluate function is like an execution engine that links the test data set, the evaluation target, which is the sales data insight tool, and the evaluators together. I like to focus on the evaluators here. The first evaluator is a built-in evaluator that comes with PromptFlow SDK. It's a content safety evaluator. It acts as a safeguard to make sure my query or generated output are free of any violent, harmful, or hate content. And the following three evaluators are custom evaluators. They give me execution time, error rate, and SQL similarity scores. And the SQL similarity score represents how similar the generated SQL query is to the ground truth. These customer evaluators are just Python function, which means you can write your own customer evaluators very easily and pass those to the evaluate function. Okay, I have previously ran the evaluation already, and that's why I got this output on my console. And you can see I already get some output and aggregated metrics locally in the terminal. For a better view, I can click this AI Studio URL, and this leads me to the evaluation detail page on AI Studio. I see the aggregated metrics here at the top, and I can see the per row level result at the bottom. What's really cool about this page is that there's also a tracing tab. that allow me to drill down to each of the row if I ever wonder how some of the evaluation metrics might have been calculated.
Awesome, Hanchi. Let's pause here. There's so much goodness that we covered that I want to go over. So the first thing Hanchi did was he needed a test data set as an input to his evaluation. And that just needed two things. It needed a set of questions and the ground truth, which are the right answers. The second thing he did was he then used evaluators. Within AI Studio, we have built-in evaluators for you to use right away. For example, he was using one for content safety. Or you can create your own. You can define your own metric in terms of how you measure the quality or performance of your apps, and you can utilize those as well. Then once you have your evaluators, what Hanchi used was he used an evaluation function, and that function ran the evaluators against his application. And if you're paying attention, with functions, we can always add decorators. And that's where if you add the @trace decorator to the functions and the evaluations, you can log those metrics and visualize those as well. All of this is brought together with AI Studio. Once the evaluations are run, you're able to visualize them within the studio, collaborate, and share on those as well. Okay, so now let's step back. If you remember, our original task was that we wanted Hanchi to try different models, right? We have this vast model catalog. We want to be able to try a set of different models to see which one is going to help give me the best performance or accuracy for my application for the sales data insights function. Hanchi, can you show us how you do that in the product?
I saw the executives are the ones who ask tricky questions, but I sure can do that. So earlier this week, I went to our model catalog and looked up a list of popular models and ran the same evaluation with each of them. That's how I got this evaluation result list. You can see the Cohere here, Phi-3 here, Llama 3, Mistral Large, Mistral Small, and GPT models. To show you how the comparison view works, I can select a couple of them. For example, I can select GPT-3.5 as the baseline and include GPT-4 Turbo and maybe Mistral Large. And I can pop up this comparison view. If we compare the Mistral Large with the GPT-3.5 Turbo, we can see that the Mistral Large has higher execution time, which means it's a little bit slower, but it has better error rate and better SQL similarity score. If we put GPT-4 Turbo into picture, it is the slowest among the three. It has the same error rate compared to Mistral Large, but it has the best SQL similarity score. So the conclusion here might be that for our specific scenario, if speed is not a concern, then GPT-4 Turbo is the best performer.
Awesome. Thanks, Hanchi. What I love about this is that this scales to not just trying different models. You can run evaluations on any type of parameter. It can be different parameters, it can be different data sets, or it can also be different system prompts as well. You have the tools that you need to, or the ingredients that you need to be able to play around and experiment to see which one gives you the best application for your scenario. So we covered two superpowers. Superpower 1 was debugging and tracing, and superpower 2 was evaluations. Both of these gives you the tools that you need to get your application to production or to deploy it. To deploy it, you can use AI Studio to deploy an application to an endpoint that gives you a key that you can integrate within your application. But before you deploy, what you could also do is you can enable content safety filters. What they do is they filter out harmful content from both the user input as well as the output of the application. And you have the ability to define your own filters. So now let's cover our last superpower. That is now, once our application is moved to production, it is monitoring. Continuous monitoring is critical, and you want to be able to monitor both at an individual request level, as well as you want to monitor the whole health of your system to ensure that there's no drift. With AI Studio, you're able to do that. With the integration of OpenTelemetry with PromptFlow, and you are able to integrate these traces with Azure Monitor. And this is great because developers are already familiar with this. Hanchi, can you please show us how something like this can be integrated with App Insights?
Yeah, totally agree with your point. Application deployment actually doesn't mean the job is done for a developer. On the contrary, it's the start of a new journey. It's developers' responsibility to continuously monitor their application and make sure the application always runs as expected. Prompt flow tracing can send traces to multiple monitoring tools, such as Azure Application Insight. And once a flow is deployed, the traces can become even more important. Earlier this week, we deployed our chatbot app and start to collect traces on this Azure Application Insight. Here, we build a dashboard based on that. What we can see here on this dashboard is that there are a lot of numbers and charts. There's the performance chart that contains the duration. At the top, in the middle, we have some failures, and at the bottom, we have usages. Okay. And there are so many valuable insights I think we can draw from this dashboard. I'd like to highlight just a few. So if we zoom into the duration by model chart here, this basically tells us the speed of each model. We can see the highest numbers are coming from GPT-4 models. This means like compared to other models, GPT-4 models might be a little bit slower. This aligns with the evaluation result we were looking at earlier, and this might be where the new GPT-4o model come to rescue. And if we look at the field spans here, looks like we had a failure spec from yesterday, which is the 20th. I'm wondering if that is from one of our rehearsal sessions, Nabila. And if we look at the usage section here, we can see majority of the tokens are used for prompts, and only a few are used for completion. This tells me if we ever want to reduce the cost of our chatbot app, we might consider shortening the prompt in the assistant flow or in the sales data insight tool. And if something really went wrong, this is a view that a developer can drill into and look at a specific trace with failures. On the left side here, we see the similar trace view as we were looking at earlier on AI Studio. And on the right side, this is all the detailed error messages and the stack trace go. This really helps developers to investigate and debug what might went wrong in their application. Okay, with this, let's wrap up. Let's welcome back Asha to help with that.
Thank you, guys. I know you've been hard at work over the last 6 months on bringing all of these new features to life, so it's really exciting to be here and see us represent this work with all of you. So, you know, one of the things that excites me about the direction that we're moving in is it's much more code first. And so what you can expect from us going forward is not only continuing to enhance Azure AI Studio as it is today, but starting to bring that into the most beloved IDEs that Microsoft has. So the VS family has 40 million monthly active users. GitHub is the home of open source, 100 million developers. You're going to see more and more us starting to meet you where you are, bringing our powerful tools into these applications. So with that, that was just a glimpse of what we have with the new Azure AI Studio, and we're excited to see what you build with it. So thank you so much for all the feedback, and we're looking forward to next build. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.